Hi everyone, Salesforce Admin Training Day 41. Yeah,
Sir,
offline members joined. From the institute. Hi everyone, Salesforce Admin Training Day 41. So let's see what we are going to learn today. So we'll quickly go through the previous session overview and we'll talk about the what are the limits on the approval process. And also we will see what is the differences between the workflow, process builder, flow builder, and approval process. And then we'll move on to the new topic called validation rules. And we'll see what are the navigation steps to create a validation rules. And we'll see different use cases and we'll give the homework and then we'll have a conclusion trial rates. Now, approval process limit. Last class we have seen how to create a approval process. So navigation steps for the approval process is go to the setup and search for a approval process here. Search for approval process. Now, we have created the approval process on the opportunity. Right, so whenever the discount approval process is, we have created yesterday on the discount approval process. This is all dealing with the greater than 20 and greater than 40. Right, so that's what we have seen and we have tested the approval process yesterday. Now today we will see what are the limits that are available with the approval process. Now, once the approval process is activated, you cannot add the step. You cannot add the steps or delete a step or change the order. Now, for example, yesterday we have created it is activated. Now I wanted to change the order of this step. I wanted to change the order of this step. Can I change the order of the steps? I do not have an option to change the order of the steps. I can change the criteria, but I cannot change the step. And even once it is activated, I cannot add the step here. The button is disabled. The button is disabled. I cannot create a new step. And approval process has a have a limit of you can create maximum 30 steps you can create it. Maximum 30 steps you can create it. That means each step, like here we have a approval steps, right? Different steps we have. Now here, how many steps I can create it? How many conditions I can create it? Maximum you can create a 30 steps. It has a limit of 30 steps. And similarly, we are assigning the approval process to the different managers or different users to approve the whatever the step that we are doing it in order to approve them. We are assigning the manager or a vice president, those members we are assigning it. Now, how many members can I assign it the approval process? Maximum you can go for a 25 members you can assign it. So 25 level of approvals, it's a very high level. So maximum, you will have a 3 to 4 approvals, but you can go for a maximum of up to 25 assigned approvers. 25 assigned approvers. And that's the one. And here we are creating the approval process per object. Now, if I go here, approval process, in the approval process, I can select, if I select a hiring manager, only hiring manager related process it is going to show. If I select a opportunity, then it is going to show me the only opportunity related approval process it is going to show me. Now, how many approval process can I create it per object? As per the rule, we should be creating only one active approval. You can create a multiple approval process, but it has to be active. Only one approval process should be active per object. It should be active, only one approval process should be active for the object. So there can be only one active approval process per object. For example, in the opportunity, you are creating the 5 approval process. You are creating the 5 approval process. Now, out of 5 approval process, as per the rule, only you can make it active. Only one should be true. Rest all should be deactivated. Rest all should be deactivated. Only one can be active approval process per object. And you cannot delete an approval, active approval process, right? So for example, right now we have activated this. I have activated this. Do I have an option to delete it here? We do not have an option to delete it. Now, how can I do that? So, for example, by mistakenly I created the approval process here. I wanted to delete the approval process. If the approval process is active, this is active approval process. If it is an active approval process, you will not have a button to delete the active approval process. Instead of that, what you have to do is you first deactivate the approval process and remove the records, whatever the records are available here, remove all these records in the which are sitting in the queue, because there is a possibility that the possibility is, now let's go here. Now I have created a approval process, right? And it has a 2 level of approval is required, right? And then 1 level is completed, waiting for the second level. Waiting for second level approval. Second level approval. First level is completed. Now, suddenly I felt that whatever the approval process is created, this approval process is not right. I wanted to delete the same approval process. Whatever I have created this approval process, it's not the right one. I wanted to delete it. I wanted to delete this approval process. Now, when I delete it, I cannot delete the active approval process. First thing what I need to do, the first step I need to do in order to delete it, in order to delete the approval process, in order to delete the active approval process. The first thing is that you need to deactivate the approval process. Deactivate approval process. And then whatever the records that are sitting in the queue, what are the records are sitting in the queue? So this is sitting in the queue because we are waiting for the second level approval. Whatever is sitting in the queue, we should be deleting those records. So whatever the records sitting in the queue should be deleted. Right, when you are deleting it, it is going to suggest you what are the records are there in the queue. So we have to delete that are sitting in the queue. And then you can go ahead and delete the record. You should be, because once you delete the record, there is a existing records are there. We have to make sure that there is no existing records are just waiting for this approval process to continue. If I directly delete this approval process, if I delete directly this active approval process, what are the existing records are there? Existing record is going to impact, the data corruption is going to happen. That's the reason we should not be deleting the active approval process directly. First deactivate the approval process and look for the records that are having or waiting for the in the queue. So those should be deleted. Those should be deleted. So that's it. This is a step. You cannot delete an active approval process. Instead, you must take the inactive and remove the record stuck in the queue before deleting the approval process. And the next one is approval process criteria require the documentation, because it is always important that after 6 months or after some time, if I come back, I should be able to understand what is this approval process, why it is created. So the documentation is important. The documentation is important. Always write the description here and always document in the WordPad or whatever the company is following it. So there you need to follow the rules. So follow what are the confidence page or whatever the company is providing it, that should be documented there. right? So when the approval criteria are not met, in case approval criteria are not met, Salesforce is going to display standard error message saying that that does not provide a much information. In case if it is not meeting any criteria, you missed some criteria, then in that case, what will happen? When approval criteria are not met, Salesforce displays a standard error message that does not provide them much information. It will not give them much information. So make sure that whenever you are adding the condition, you are covering all the criterias there. And records are logged to use once the submitted for a approval. A record must be either up to approved or a rejected, or it will be unlocked. Right? And the field updates that are executed as a approval action do not trigger the workflows. Whatever the field updates that are executed as a approval action, that does not fire the workflow rule actions. These are the couple of limits. Take a notes of it. Done? Take in the notes. Okay. So few more limits. So active approval process, the limit is 1000. Active approval process, the limit is 1000. And total approval process is the entire organization, it is a 2000. Entire organization, it is a 2000. So you can go for maximum active approval process 1000. Like each object, if you create it also, now if you have a 10 objects or a 10,000 objects, or you have 1,000 objects, now each object, if you need some approval process, now that goes up to the 1,000 and maximum you can go for a 2,000. And active approval process per object is 300, but as per the rule, don't go for it. So Salesforce says that you can create a 300 approval process per object, but if you create a 300, whoever is the developer is coming for the next, in order to review the code, they will be in trouble. So do not go for a 300. But this is the limit that Salesforce has given. And total approval process per object is 500, whereas active should be 300, but total you can create a maximum of 500. And initial submission action for approval process is 40. Now we have some options here which are there. Initial submission action, right? So here how many I can perform the add new task, email, alert, field update, whatever is there, how many I can perform it. It's the same limitation as we have on the workflow rule. So the limitation is 40 actions we can create it. Even workflow also we can create a 40 actions. Similarly, final approval actions per approval process is 40 actions I can create. Similarly, rejected one I can create a 40 actions I can create it. Even recall options also I can create a 40. For every action, every initial, final, and rejection, approval, recall, everywhere I can create a 40. Take a notes of it. Okay, so let's move on. Now, differences between the workflow, process builder, flow builder, and approval process. So far, we have seen the workflow, we have understood the workflow, we have understood the process builder, we have understood the flow builder, we have understood the approval process. Now, let's see the comparison between these two. What is the differences between these two? Now, if we talk about the complexity, now in the workflow, process builder and flow builder approval process, now let's look at the complexity. Now if we look at the complexity for the workflow, it's a single if then statement. It is a straightforward. You have a either if condition, then statement, right? Only if condition is there, then you have a statement. There is no else condition there. You have a just a simple straightforward if condition and then you have a statement. Whereas in the process builder, you have a multiple if then conditions are there. If statement, if that is not true, another if condition, another statement, another if condition, another statement. Like that, you have a multiple if conditions and then statements are there. There is no if else condition. It is a multiple if and then statement you have it. Now if you go to the flow builder, now this is more complicated. This is more complicated where you have a if else conditions, if multiple if else, and within that nested if else also you have it. Now here you have it. So scenario will be here. You will have a multiple if statement and else statement, and as well as you have a nested if statements, nested if statement, and also you can create a loop. Nested if is nothing but if within the if condition. Whoever is don't know nested if condition, you have a if condition here, right? Again within this, you have another if condition, another if condition. Again within this, you have a one more if condition. It is possible that this is called as a nested if condition, nested if. And also we can go for a loop. We can loop through the conditions, whatever the multiple collection records are there, we can loop through that. So which is a complex scenario which we can implement in the flow builder. Whereas in the approval process, I can simply go for a single if statement, similar to the workflow. Similar to the workflow, I can simply go to the single if statement. So the complexity wise is this is workflow and approval process is easier. Process builder is, it's not, I cannot say it is a difficult, but you have a flexibility that you can create a multiple if and statements. And flow builder is complex scenarios, you will go for the flow builder. And next one is we will talk about, this is the complexity. Now let's look at the time-based actions. We have a time-based actions in the workflow. In the process builder, let's say how many are going to support it. Now, who all are going to support the time-based actions? Can I create a time-based action in workflow? Yes, I can create it. How about in the process builder? Yes, I can create it. How about in the flow builder? Yes, I can create the time-based actions. These three are supported. Workflow, process builder, flow builder, I can create a time-based action. But whereas a approval process, I cannot create a time-based action. I cannot create a time-based action. Approval process is something immediate. Something immediate. As soon as the button is clicked, immediate action has to go out to the approver. And the next one is we will see user interaction. Who are going to support the user interaction? Now let's see who are going to support the user interaction. Workflow. Workflow does not have a user interaction. It is just a flow. Automation I can implement. Automation I can implement it there. Right? So I cannot implement a UI in the workflow. Similarly, in the process builder, I cannot implement a UI in the process builder. I can implement a automation logic I can implement, but UI I cannot implement. Whereas in the flow builder, yes, we can implement the UI. There is an option is there which we can implement the UI. And coming to the approval process also required a UI. I'm not creating the UI, but when the user goes to the record, right? So the record, they can modify the page layout, they can update the page layout, right? There is a approval history is getting created and the records also getting created for the end user. End user has to go there and click on the approve button, reject button, or a recall button. Those options he has to do on the user. So when the user is press the button, then only I can implement the logic. When the user click on a submit approval button, then only the approval process is going to start executing it. Then only approval process is going to start executing. That means user interaction is required for the approval process. Otherwise, by default, it will not execute. Whereas workflow, sometimes automatically it will execute it, right? For example, it need not to be user is updating the field here. Possible that process builder is updating the field. After executing the process builder, workflow is automatically gets executed there. Right? Similarly, process builder is also, it need not to be the user interaction. But flow builder, yes, it has to be user interaction, and approval process is also user interaction. I cannot implement the screens in the approval process, but I need some kind of a input from the user. I need some kind of a button click or action has to be happened. Then only the approval process gets executed. Now, this is fine. Now let's see who all are can call the Apex code. When I say Apex code, the development, the one which we are going to start it from the Monday onwards. Now, if I wanted to call some logic, the Apex logic from any of this, can I call it or no? So far, we have not seen it, but let's understand what is happening here. So calling the Apex code through the workflow, I cannot call it. I cannot call the Apex code from the workflow, which is not possible. Whereas process builder, yes, I can call the Apex code. We will see during the development. Even flow builder also we can call the Apex code. And the approval process, we cannot call it. We cannot call the Apex code, which is not possible. So workflow and approval process cannot call the Apex, but process builder and the flow builder can call the Apex. Now we will see once we are in the stage of, we know that how to write the Apex code, then we will see the example, how to call it from the process builder, how to call it from the flow builder. Now, by using all these four options, can I create a record? Can I create a record? So is it possible to create a record in the workflow? I can create only tasks. I can create only tasks, but object level I cannot create a new record. But object level I cannot create a new record. And whereas process builder, yes, I can create the record. Even flow builder also I can create the record. Whereas approval process, I can do only task. I cannot create a record. There is a approval history, the record is getting created, but that is not created by the one which we have implemented. I'm not creating it. Anywhere am I creating here record? I'm not creating the record. That is a default Salesforce is creating the record in the approval history. Approval history, it is creating it. But we cannot create developers cannot create the record in the workflow and in the approval process. Only the task we can create it. Apart from the task, we cannot create any other. Only option is available to create a task. And how about deleting the records? Can I delete the record from the workflow? No, I cannot delete the record from the workflow. Can I delete the record from the process builder? No, I cannot delete it. How about flow builder? Yes, we have an option to delete the record. And approval process, I cannot create a record. Record deletion does not happen in any automation except the flow builder. Except the flow builder, we cannot delete the record with any other automation. Take a notes of it. We will talk about that entitlement. Time limit is not there, Hari. So there is no time limit, but maximum it can usually they can wait for at least 2 days or 3 days. But after that, as per the Salesforce standard, there is no time limit on that. Okay, so is it done? Taking the notes? Okay, so let's move on. Next one is new topic today is called validation rules. Validation rules. Now, what is this validation rules? What is this validation rules? When you see the word validation, when you see the word validation, what do you understand? In generic meaning, what is the validation? Error, checking something, validating the input, particular data mentioned, okay, correctness, right. So as you guys mentioned, validation is nothing but exception. Okay. Validation is nothing but error, checking the error or validating the input, correctness. Now, in Salesforce, what are the different ways that I can check what are the user is entering? Because Salesforce itself is the terminology is called. Now, Salesforce is nothing but data storage. Data storage. Whatever you do in Salesforce, whatever you do in Salesforce, we have to make sure that the data is inserted in the record correctly and properly with the right format. The concept of Salesforce is storing the data. Whatever the object you see, we have a object, fields, and data type. Everything is running behind that only. Whatever you implement, whatever you implement in Salesforce, all the logic, every logic is behind the object, field, data, and metadata. Right? Whatever you do it, all of this object, field, data, and metadata, whatever the data is exist in this each field is everywhere we are going to look at. Now, there are different ways to validate in the Salesforce. There are different ways to validate. Now, for example, here I am entering while creating the account. While creating the account, now whenever I am creating the account, assume that either user is creating directly logging into the Salesforce or else from the third party I am receiving the account details or from website I am receiving the leads. I am receiving the leads from the website from Facebook, Instagram, I'm directly receiving the leads from there. Now, whenever we are receiving the data from outside of the Salesforce, or whenever user is entering within the Salesforce, I need to check, for example, here I have an email field. I have an email field. I need to make sure that whether the account is created within the Salesforce or whether the account is created from the outside of the Salesforce or somebody is sending the data to Salesforce, whatever is happening at the end, I need to get the email here. There should be a data entered here. If I do not enter the data, if I do not enter the data, now what will happen? Immediately it is going to throw me an error saying that complete this field. Complete this field. What is this? This is the error. This is error. But how am I handling this error? We are handling the error from the page layout. In the page layout, or I can say that field level. Let's say that field level. Field level, I'm making it as a mandatory. I'm making the field as mandatory. making the field as mandatory. That is one way of validating the field, validating the data in the field. That is the one way of validating the data in the field. Another way of validating the data. Actually, we are not validating there. I'm not validating here what is the user has entered. I'm checking here whether the data is there or not. I don't know what is they have entered. They might be entered something here and edited something here they have entered, right? Whether the user is entered the information or not, that's what I'm checking in the field level. That's what I'm checking at the field level. But whether the user has entered the correct format or not, that we are not checking. Now, if you have taken the data type of email, there is a system validations are there. There are something called as a system validation. System validations. Now, when you are creating the email field, and you made it as a mandatory, but as per your whatever you made it as a mandatory means data should be there in the field, right? But who is checking there whether the data is correctly entered in the field or not? We have some data type. If you take a data type while creating the email field, if you take a data type of email, then it is going to cross verify whatever the system validation is there for this email. As per that, according to that, it is going to check that whether it is entered correctly or not. Whether it is entered correctly or not, it is going to cross verify, right? So now I have entered something which is not right, 45456.com. This is not the perfect, that is not the perfect one. Now, but there are some system validation, what Salesforce is going to check. Is there a at the rate in the data or not? Whatever the data entered, is there a at the rate or not? Or else is there a dot is there or not? They are going to check only two things, whether there is a at the rate or whether there is a dot. Is these two special characters are available, whatever the user has entered. That is a system validation they are going to check. Right? Similarly, at the page layout level, I can make it as a required, but I'm not going to check the data there. I'm not going to check the data. Who is going to check the data? Now, whenever you are creating the field, that time you are selecting the data type. Based on the data type selection, on that data type, whatever Salesforce has written the system validations, those validations are going to execute it. Those validations are going to execute it. Right? This is one way. Now, another configuration way is I wanted to, no, Salesforce is not checking properly. They are just checking whether it is at the rate is there or dot is there is checking, but they don't know what is entered here. What is actually entered here? Let's suppose annual revenue. Now here I have a rating or a phone number is there. Whether the user has entered or not. I do not want to make it as a mandatory. Now there is a scenario is I have a three groups are there in the company. Three different groups are there. In the three different groups, I have each group 10 users are there. Each group 10 users are there. These are the, assume that these groups are sales group, service group, and marketing group. Marketing group. These are the three groups are there. Each group has a 10 users. 10 users are there. Right? Now, let's assume that, now I do not want to, like, for example, phone number is there. Phone number is important for the, no, not the phone number, let's say website, okay, website or else account number. Account number is mandatory only for the sales group. Only for sales group, they need an account number. Service group, marketing group does not care about the account number. They are only care about the phone number, whether there is a phone number is there or not, or whether there is a email ID there or not. So these two have a different details. Now, email they have to check, phone number they have to check. Now, similarly, marketing user they have to check the email and the phone number, and most probably this service group might need a address also, might need an address. Now here we have a different information. Different groups needed a different mandatory information. Now sales group, it is mandatory to get the account number. For service group, it is mandatory to get the address. For marketing group, it is mandatory to get the email and phone number. Right? So everybody has a different concept. Different field is a mandatory. Now if I make it as a field level account number is a mandatory. Field level, if I make it account number, it is mandatory. Now service group also, whenever they are filling the data in the account, they will also see that account number is mandatory. And when the marketing team is creating the account record, that time also they will see the account number is mandatory. Now these two teams are going to raise a concern that we do not need a mandatory field on the account number because we doesn't care. But Salesforce sales group is saying that we need an account number because I need to track the sale of that person. Now I need an account number of that person. Now how can I make it? Now if I make it field level mandatory, it will be problem for these two groups, service group and marketing group. If I do not make it as a required on the field level, then it is a problem for the sales group, right? Now we have an option to go for a page layout, but I'll go for a page layout. There is a different concept. I can do it through the page layout, but it has to be a different way. It has to be a different way that we will discuss later. And apart from this, one of the option that we have is to validate the data. I can make it as if by using the validation rule, what I can do is I can restrict only for the sales group to show this field as a mandatory. To show this field as a mandatory. Rest other group, I can make it as a not mandatory. I can make it as a not mandatory. So that is one of the reason why the validations rules came into the picture. It was initially validations rules, right? Now initially they were having the validations. Right now we have so many options to implement whatever we are able to implement in the validation tool. Same thing we can implement using the either flows or different ways I can implement it. But initially when the Salesforce has released it, that time we were having only the option called validation. It's a very old concept, still it is a valid concept. Why I am saying the valid concept? It is an old concept. Definitely, it is a very old concept, but it is still valid because admin can easily handle that in the validation tool. Admin or a Salesforce consulting team, right? For example, in the client side, I have some team, right? They know little bit about the admin. Whoever knows the admin, they don't know development, right? They just know the admin. They can also maintain the validation tool. They can also maintain the validation rules. So it is easy for admin and a client to maintain the data in the validation tool. So that is the concept where we have got the validations rule from the Salesforce. Now, when we talk about the validation rules, when we talk about the validation rule, there are two types of a validation rules. There are two types of the validation rule. Now, validation rule two types is nothing but whenever I am creating an account, whenever I am creating an account, now here I am creating the account, click on a new button. Now let's say account name is a PWC HYD. Now here I'll click on a save. Now the data is not yet saved into the database. This is data is not yet saved into the database. While I am on to the client, this is the client side. This is the client side. While I am into the client side, while I am entering the data here, I can immediately get the error on the browser. I can get the immediately error on the browser. There are two types of the validations are there. There are two types of validation are there. One is directly I can get the error on the browser. Directly I can get the error on the browser. The second one is once the database, in the database server, I can get the error. In the database server, I can get the error. That means once it is stored into the database, then based on the some logic execution, then it is going to throw an error. There are two types. One is a browser level, another one is a database level. Another one is database level. Browser one is nothing but this is the one. As soon as I click on a save, immediately I can see the error. Immediately I can see the error. Browser level errors is also called as a client side validation. Client side validation. Client side validation is nothing but before saving the data into the database, directly I can see the data into the client side. As I am entering the data in front of the client, I can immediately see the error on the browser level. Whatever the errors you are seeing on the browser level, those are the client-side validations. Now, once the data is stored into the database and then we are seeing the error, which is called as a database server. Also, those are called as a server-side validations. Server-side validations. Server-side validation. Browser, which is nothing but a client-side validation. Database server, which is nothing but a server-side validation. Database, which is nothing but a server-side validation. There are two types are there. Now, validations are client-side validation and server-side validation. Client-side validation is nothing but a browser. Server-side validation is nothing but a database server. Now take a notes of it. Completed. Okay. Let's move on. Now, as we have discussed right now, server is nothing but where the data is sits into the database, where the data is sits into the database. Now, in the database, I can directly, once the data is stored, now, for example, account object is there in the server. Now, in the server, whenever the data is created here, then we are going to get the error. Now client is nothing but where directly whenever I click on a save button, immediately I can see the error message on the client side. That is the difference between the client and server. Now let's see the navigation steps. Navigation steps to create a validation rule. Now go to the object manager, open a related object, click on any object, like you go to the object manager. For example, you wanted to create a validation rule on the account. Now go to that particular account. There is a option which is showing as a validation on the left side. Now let's go to here. Go to the object manager, click on account, and bottom in the left side you can see there is a option called validation rules. Validation rules. Click on that validation rules on the left side. Then you need to enter the validation rule name, description, and you need to select the checkbox. You need to select the checkbox. Now, for example, now I have clicked on the validation rule. Now you need to click on a new button. Click on a new button. When you click on a new button, now this is, if you look at this screen, it seems like a similar known screen. Similar known screen. Now why I am saying the known screen? Now if you see this one, formula one, right? Whatever the second section is there, this is the formula screen. This is formula screen. Now here on top we have a rule name, active, and the description. This is the bottom. It is a error message. So validation rule is divided into three sections. One, you need to enter the rule name, and then you need to use the formula field in order to check the validation, and then if there is a really a error, then what is the kind of a error you wanted to display? What is the kind of a error you wanted to display? Do you want to display the error on the top of the page or on the field level? On the field level. Now here validation rule, if it is active, then only this is going to execute it. If it is a not active, then your validation rules are not execute. Your validation rules does not execute. If you want validation rule to be executed, then it has to be checked as a active. Only the active validation rules can be executed. Now, if you wanted to know that how many validations rules can I create it? How many validations rules can I create it? Now, go to the object permission, not the object permission, object limit. Go to the object limit. In the object limit, it says that you can create a validations rule up to 100 validations rules. Up to 100 validations rules you can create it. So if you go to the object limit of the same object, it will tell you that how many lookup filters, how many validation rules, how many workflow rules, how many approval process, how many custom fields, how many relationship fields, what are the roll-up summary field, how many sharing rules can I create it per object, how many sharing rules criteria based I can create it per object, how many total workflow rules I can create it per object. Everything it will give you the limit. Everything it will give you the limit. Now, whichever the org you are using it, just go to the object, and at each object level, you will see the limit. Now here it says that active one is 100. Similarly, I can create a custom fields 500. So for how many I have created? I have created a 12 custom fields in the account. But I have a limit of 500 custom fields I can create it. 500 custom fields I can create it. Now these are the limits. You can check it at the object limit level also. Now here I'll click on a new button again. Let's assume that I wanted to check whether the account number is blank or not. Whether the account number is blank or not. Now the first section it is going to ask me that what is the rule name. What is the rule name? Now let's say rule name is validate account number. Validate account number. Validate the account number. Now here I need to check the account number. So in order to get the field, first of all I need to get here insert a field. Now what is the field I wanted to insert? Account number I wanted to insert. Now, what do I wanted to do with this field? I wanted to check whether this field is blank or not. Whether this field is blank or not. It says account number, but account number might be a numeric, might be a alphanumeric. Sometimes account number can be like this. Like account number can be a SA1004. Like this, there will be an account number. Sometimes your account number is just a straightforward like this. So it is possible that it has a both the values alphanumeric and numeric. Right? In that case, now which function do I need to use it here? I need to check whether the account number is blank or not. Which function do I need to use it? Which function do I need to use it? I need to check whether
Is
the is null. Okay. Why is null?
because the field is blank. I mean empty. There is no data in that field.
Okay.
Is blank.
Why can't be is blank?
Is blank only. I said
Sorry.
is blank.
What is the difference between the is null and is blank? Which one should I need to use? Is null or is blank?
Is blank is the field which doesn't contain any data, or and is null. I mean it can be a binary like number, something like that. I'm not sure exactly.
We have already discussed this during the formula fields. What is the difference between the is null and is blank? If I take a is null, what will happen? Only it is going to check numeric, only it is going to check for the numeric one. That means if my data type of the field is a number, it is going to check only the number data type. Only number data type it is going to check whether the value is there or not. In case of is blank, it is going to check for the text as well as the number. Both the data type it is going to check. Now here account number is a text which can accept the alpha as well as it can accept the number. Right? In that case, I can go for is blank. I can go for is blank. If I take a is null, it will not give you the right result to me. It will not give the, I can use the is null. Formula is going to accept it, but what about the result? Result, I'll not get it. The output will be incorrect. Output will be incorrect. If I use a is null, the output will be incorrect because is null is capable of checking the number data type, whether number data type field is having the value or not. It does not have a flexibility to check the text data type field data is there or not. So we have to always use the is blank. If you know that this is going to be the data is going to sit here, which is a alpha as well as numeric, take the is blank. Do not take the is null. Now click on here, check syntax. Now here I'll mention that account number. I'll say here, please enter the account number. Please enter account number. Now, when I say please enter account number, where is this field needs to be displayed? Do I want to display on the top of the page or do I want it to display the field level? Now, let me show you the top of the page. Click on the save button here. Now, this is a active. Now, I'll go here, click create a account. Create a account. Click on this. Let's say Volkswagen is the account, and I'm entering the email volkswagen@gmail.com. Click on a save. What is happening here? Please enter the account number. Where it is showing the account number? Here it is showing. Now I need to search where is my account number. It doesn't give me anywhere. Now I need to search it here. Where is my account number? Where is the account number? It is not even highlight the account number. It shows as a symbol. Now let's say that if I create here, click on edit. Click on edit and show me at the field level. Show me at the field level. What is the field? Account number is the field. Click on save. Go here, again click on a save button. Now it is going to highlight me. Even at the bottom it is going to show, and if I click on this, what is happening? It is highlighting this particular account number. It is highlighting the account number. Now it's get executed here, and I know that which field needs to be entered. Now if I here and click on a save button, now immediately it shows here error message. If I click on this account number, it will give me the option where should I need to enter the value. Right now I need to enter some value here. Click on save. It is going to allow me to save the record. Now, is this only for the new record, or can I do it for the existing record also? Now, for example, PWC we have already created. Now, what I'll do is I'll click on edit button. On this PWC, I'll just add the industry, agriculture, and then I'll click on a save button. Account number. Now it is still asking the account. Even for the new records as well as the existing record, both the records it will affect. What are the validation rules that we have implemented? It works for the new records as well as it works for the existing records. Both the records it is going to work. Both the records it is going to work. Now here we need to enter the condition inside the formula editor to check the condition. And what we have done, I have entered the root name and activated it. Description, you can add the description here. Description is account number has to be entered. Let's say account number should have a value or should have a data. Now this is the description. And what else I need to do? I need to enter the condition inside the formula field. This is a condition inside the formula field. Right? So once I enter the inside the formula field, click on a check syntax. Click on check syntax. Once I click on a check syntax, if it is there is any validation here, it will show the error here, otherwise it will go on. Now the next one is I need to go to the error message. In the error message, I need to show the text message. I need to show the what is the error message here. In the real time, what is the error message should be displayed is provided by the client. So for temporarily, what you can do is you can give some error message here, but when you are pushing this to the production, you need to confirm with the client that is this error message is fine to display to the user end users. If client says that okay, this error message is fine to display the end users, you can go ahead and push this validation rule, or else if this is if they feel that if client feels that no, this is not the way to display the error message to the end users. Now if they have some options, we can give here the error message as per the client input. Now enter that error message and then select the error location. Where should you want it to display the location? Do you want to display on the top of the page, or do you want to display on the field level? Right? Display the field level. Now, if it is a field level, it is going to display on the field level from the pick list. I need to choose the what is the field I wanted to display the error message and click on it save. Now here, whenever I am choosing it from the pick list value, I can choose only one field. I cannot choose a multiple fields here. There is a no option to choose a multiple fields. I can choose only one field in the object. Now, take a notes if anybody has taken the notes of the navigation steps.
Ma'am, as you said, we have two type of validation, client side and server side. But while creating, we don't have to like choose what type of validation we need to create. So, how the server side validation comes into picture?
Database server. Can I check the database from the UI point of view? As soon as the database comes here, it is either I need a Apex, I need a Lightning Aura, or I need a LWC, or I need a Flows, or I need a process builder. Because validation tool does not check anything after inserting the data, right? After inserting the data itself, I wanted to verify it. So those all dealing in the Apex side. Those all deal in the Apex or Aura or LWC. Whatever is dealing with the after insert data is there, after insert execution flow is there, that will be handled. Now here validation, I just wanted to see as soon as the user enter here. Now I do not want the validation to go inside the database, get the query, get the details. No, I do not want to do that. Here, what I am doing, I am directly inserting the field here. Am I inserting this field from the database? No, I'm not inserting from the database. This is the object, this is the field. That's it. Object and field. I'm not taking here from the database. I'm not taking anything from the database. I'm just taking the inserting field is nothing but object level. I'm selecting the field, right? So that means without interacting with the database, I wanted to clarify the data here in the itself in the client side. Now, which can happen through the validation loop. If you want to interact with the database and then check the data, it has to be altogether different concept. Right? So take a notes of it.
Ma'am, I have a query here. So at a time we can apply one validation rule, right, on the field level.
On the field
Is
level,
it
yes. Error you can
okay?
show, one error you can show on the field level. Now let me show you the complicated one
Mm,
also. Then
okay.
you will
I have a
understand.
requirement I have like a zip code which can accept a five characters as well as the eight characters.
Yes,
So how do I validate? Because they're based on the users,
yes,
so they can accept five or they can accept eight. So that kind of a conditions we cannot
we can
uh,
verify.
it's not possible, right? So how we can validate that?
Yes, we have a topic to discuss that later. So I'm going to cover all the data types.
Okay.
Is it done? Taken the notes? Okay. So far, whatever we have discussed, so far, whatever we have discussed, where the data type is, where the data type is having a text as well as number, having a text and number. Now in Salesforce, we have a different type of a data types are there. We have a different type of a data types are there. Now few are just a text, few are just alpha and numeric, few are a pick list, few are like a website URL I need to enter, right? I have a different kind of a data that user is entering. Now, is validation rule able to validate all the different type of data? So for example, I have here pick list, right? Can I check the pick list value from the validation rule? Now, whenever the user is created the record, I just wanted to make sure that user should be selecting at the first place, the type should be the prospect. Type should be the prospect. I wanted to check this. Now, we will see all these options slowly one by one. Now, so far what we have done is, I know how to handle the type and the number, like how can I check the text value, how can I check the alphanumeric value, how can I check the, how can I validate the only number field, I know by previous example, right? Now that's what we have implemented, which is a number, account number. Now take a, this is the homework. Now I'll give you the homework later. Now let's go for a different scenario. The different scenario here it is, let's assume that I have a scenario where I'm entering the data type. I'll take the data type, which is a currency, which is a currency, which is a currency, or let's take it as a date. Let's take it as a date. Now, where is the date data type? Now, if I go to the position object, let's go to the position object. In the position object, if you open any position record, okay, let's take the currency one. Okay, for example, here I have a minimum pay and maximum budget. I have a minimum pay, maximum budget. Now, next one, which I'm going to read about the currency. Currency, how to handle the validation for the currency. Now, I have a two fields. One is a minimum pay, one is a maximum budget. One is minimum pay and another one is maximum budget. Now, sometimes what happens is whenever the record is created, now this record, it is possible that humans can make a mistake. They can say that minimum pay is a 10,000 and maximum pay is 5,000. Maximum pay is 5,000. This is actually a mistake done by the HR or whoever is created the position. They are made the mistake. Now, this kind of a mistake, I should avoid them to create it. Now, it is possible that human can make a mistake, right? So, in that case, I wanted to make sure that system is smart enough to verify that what is my minimum pay and check is my maximum budget is greater than the minimum pay, then only allow to create a record. Otherwise, do not allow to create a record. So that's what I wanted to make the system to cross-verify. In order to verify the system I want system to cross-verify the validation. Now, in that case, what I can do is I can go to the object. Now here we have a position object. Go to the position object. Now in this position object, go to the validation rule. Create a new button. I'll say here maximum. Maximum budget. Should be higher. Or let's say maximum budget is greater than minimum budget. Minimum budget. Let minimum budget. Now here I'll say that make sure maximum budget is always greater the minimum budget. Minimum budget. Now, in order to check that, right, both are, what is the data type for both of them? Both has a currency data type. Both has a currency data type. Now, for the currency data type, what I can do is simply I can go to the position and here I'll check the minimum pay or maximum budget should be greater than. So I can use here greater than and the field is called as a minimum pay. Should be greater than minimum pay. Now I have a two fields here. One is a minimum pay and one is maximum budget. One is minimum pay and maximum budget. Now, where should I need to display the error message? If I have to display the error message on the field level, should I need to display on the minimum pay? Should I need to display on the maximum budget? Because it is possible that user might have entered the minimum pay is incorrect. Maximum budget is might be right. Now I cannot show the error message here, right? So it's how can you decide it? It's basically discussion with the client. You should decide asking them that where should I need to display the error message. I have a two fields. If you have a more than one field, if you are dealing in the validation rule, you need to always check with your architect or a let's say client. You need to check with them which one is where should I need to display the error message, or else do you want to simply display the message on the top of the page? Now here I'll say that maximum budget should be greater than minimum budget. Click on save. I'm clicking on the activate, click on the save. Now once it is activated, now let me edit this and simply save this record. Let's refresh. And what is the condition here? Maximum budget is greater than minimum pay. Click on edit. Now let's say here I'm just modifying this. Click on save. Now why it is not creating? Maximum budget and minimum pay. Let me create the new record. I'll take a clone of this. Wow, it's allowing me. What is the reason here? Maximum budget should be greater than minimum pay. Position validation. Let me do it in another way. Now we have mentioned maximum budget. If it is a maximum budget is greater than minimum pay, show the error. The validation is incorrect here. The validation is incorrect. Now what is the validation that I have used here? Anytime you see that maximum budget is greater than minimum pay, then show the error. But it has to be actually the other operator. Operator has to be less than. It has to be less than. Whenever you see that minimum pay is less than the maximum budget, then only show the error. Now here in this case, now if I click on save, now did I save it? Click on save. Now, any time if the maximum budget is less than the minimum pay, then show me the error message. Click on the edit, click on save. Now it says that maximum budget is always greater than the minimum budget. Or else, either you can do this way or else. Now you wanted to check here greater only. You wanted to check greater condition. Greater condition you wanted to check. Now whenever this is true, whenever this is true, now we have a function called, now what you can do is, few developers what they will do is, now they simply put in front of this, not in front of this, and whatever the logic is there, they will put it this. That means anytime you see maximum budget is greater than minimum pay, maximum budget is greater than minimum pay, this is a true, right? So in that case, now whenever I want the false, the opposite direction of the condition, if I want it, then you can check the not condition also. Right? You can check the not condition, which we have already seen that. So that is data type currency. Currency is a straightforward. Whenever you have a currency, you can check straightforward to check that if my minimum pay is, whatever the maximum budget is, if it is less than the minimum pay, then show the error message. Now that is what we are doing it here. Now where to display the validation message? Right now we are displaying the validation message on the top of the page, on the top of the page. Now if I change it here, the value, click on save, then it is going to store the record, save the record. Now that is for the currency. That is for currency. Now let's assume that I have a, now you know that how to handle a currency, how to handle this text field and number field. Let's assume that I have a different scenario. Scenario is on the account level. On the account level, I have a multiple fields are there. I have multiple fields. What are the fields that I have? I need to check the rating whenever the new account is created. I need to check the account number. I need to check the type. I need to check the industry. If any of these values are false, let's check here. Now in the account, whenever the account is created, I need to check whether the data is there in the account number, whether the data is there in the rating, whether the data is there in the type field. If that means all these fields should have a data. Now, ideally, what I'll do here, I'll create a one validation rule here. I'll create another validation rule here. Right? I will create another validation rule here. Why I am creating the three validation rules? Because I wanted to check whether the data is entered in this account number, rating, type. I wanted to check it here, right? Now, instead of creating the different validation rules, instead of creating the different validation rules, what you can do is you can combine all this. You can combine all this. How can you combine it? We have a function called AND function. We have a function called AND function. In the AND function, what you need to check whether the account number is not equal to null. Whether the account number is not equal to null, comma, rating is not equal to null. Rating is not equal to null, comma, equal to type is not equal to null. That means whenever the account is created, these three data must has to be there. These three data must has to be there. If any of the data is not created, if any of the data is not there, then it should show error. Right? So, and condition is nothing but I wanted to check complete data. Now it has to have a data into this, it has to have a data into this, it has to have a data into this. Or else, if you want to check, for example, you wanted to check the condition instead of and condition, You wanted to check this first. If this is data is there, then check this. That means if either of data is not there, if either of data is not there, that means I need to use the or condition here. I need to use the or condition. If this is not equal to null, or this is not equal to null, or this is not equal to null, then show me the error message. That means if it returns true, that means if all the conditions are satisfied, then only it will return the true here. If any of the condition is false, if any of the condition is false, then it will return the false here. It will return the false. Whereas in the AND condition, if I am using the AND condition here, if any of the and condition also here, any of the condition is written, all the conditions are written true, then ultimately it will go as a true. If any of the conditions are failed, then it will return the false. It will return the false. Now, whereas OR condition, what will happen? In the OR condition, all of them has to be false. All of them has to be false. Now, just to clarify for everybody here, and OR condition, and is nothing but it will return true. The result will get a true. When it will get a true? If all the conditions, whatever the conditions are mentioned inside the, whatever the conditions are mentioned inside the, all the conditions has to be satisfied. Has to be satisfied. False. False is basically if any of the condition, if any of the condition are failed, then it will return the false. Then it will return the false. I'll get a false here in case account number is not there, or in case rating is not there, or in case type is not there. Any of this is not, condition is failed, then I'm going to get the false. Right? And whereas or condition is nothing but, whereas or condition is nothing but, or is true is nothing but if all the conditions are satisfied. If all the conditions are satisfied. False is nothing but here if all of the this is other way. All of the conditions are failed. Now this is the other way. Now let me show you the example. Let's go to the object manager. Let's go to the account. Now here fields and relationship. Now I'm going to check the account number and the rating field. What is the rating field data type? Rating field data type is pick list. And what is the type data type? Type is also pick list. Now I'm going to check one text field, two pick list values. Two pick list field values. So two are there. Now let's go to the validation rule. Go to the validation rule. Now this time what I'll do is click on this new button. Now let's say my field rule name is, validation rule name is, check the valid information. Valid information. Now this time I'm going to use the condition and condition. In the AND condition, what are the things that I have? One is a text data type, second one is a pick list, and third one is also pick list. Here I have a text data type. Here I have a pick list data type. And the next one is also pick list data type. Now, what is the text data type? Text is nothing but I wanted to check whether the account number. So let me take account number, insert it. Now this I wanted to check is blank. I wanted to check is blank. If it is a is blank, right? Comma. Now I wanted to check pick list. What is the pick list that I'm going to take it here? Insert. Pick list is the rating. Rating is the type is pick list. Click on insert. Click on insert. For this also I wanted to check is blank. This also I wanted to check is blank. Similarly, I wanted to check another pick list which is a type. Type is a pick list. Now for type is also I wanted to check is blank. Is blank. Now check the syntax. What is happening here? Let me remove this. Check the syntax. It says that field rating is a pick list field. Field rating is a pick list field. Pick list fields are only supported in certain functions. Only it is supported in certain functions. That means if I have a pick list field, I cannot directly check the pick list value inside the whether it is a is blank or not. I cannot directly check. That. Now what should I need to do? First, you need to convert that field into the text format. First, you need to convert that into the text format. Now from the pick list, I need to convert this into the text format. Now, how can I convert that into the text format? We have a function called text. Insert this. Insert rating. Control X, enter this. Now, similarly, I'm going to take here text. Right? Now, check the condition. Now, perfect. What I have done from the pick list, I converted the data type of the pick list to the text. I converted the data type from pick list to the text. Now I'm checking whether it is a blank or not. Right? Or else. Either you can do this or else what you can do is, now here I'll remove this. The second pick list, what I'll do is, you can directly take the function which is we have a is pick val. Is pick val. Now insert this is pick val and here select this type and pass the pick list field as a type. And what should be the text is, text should be a blank. Text should be a blank. Either you can directly use the is blank and convert the pick list value to the text, or else you can directly use the is pick val and then type is the field and check whether it is a blank or not. Now here I am going to enter the details. Now please enter account number, rating and type on account only record. Let's say enter these values. On the top of the page, I'm going to display. Click on save. Click on save. Perfect. Let's go to the account. Now click on the edit button. Now what are we checking? Account number, rating, and the type. Click on the save. Account number is, this is giving the account number. Now let me deactivate the another validation which I have it. Validate the account number. I'll deactivate this. Click on save. Now let's click on the save button. Please enter the account number, rating and type. Right? Now what I have used here, account number. Let's say that this is PwC. I'm entering some account number. Now click on the save. What is happening? If any condition is true, then immediately it is getting executed. and is having, now in the and condition, I'm checking the pick list as well as data type, pick list as well as text. Three fields I'm checking. Three fields I'm checking here. But what is happened as soon as I enter the account number, it is allowing me to save the record. It is allowing me to save the record. Now I'll say here or condition. I'll say here or condition. Click on the check syntax and click on the save button. Now let's go to the same record. Click on the edit button. Click on save. What is happening? It is asking, though the account number is there. Though the account number is there. So what it is saying that it is missing the details. Now I'll give the rating. Now rating is a hot. Now again I'll click on a save. Again it is giving me the data. That means all the three values has to be entered for the OR condition. All the three values has to be entered for the OR condition. If all the three values are true, then only it is going to execute the condition. In the AND condition is that if any of the condition is true, if any of the condition is true, then it will execute it. Now instead of a true false here, now and OR condition is, now in the AND, if any of the condition is true, then it will execute it will make it as it will give the result as true. Right? So the output will be, then the output will be true. If any of the condition is true, then output will be true. Now here, if all conditions are true, if all conditions are true, if all conditions are true, when I say here true, it is successfully execute that means there is a no error. I'll not get an error here. If all conditions are true, right, then I'll not get the error. I'll not get the validation error. I will not get the validation error. Now here, if any of the condition is true, then I will not get the validation, right? So when I get the validation rule error, when the condition is true, when the condition is true, when the condition will be true, if any of the condition, if all the conditions are false, if all the conditions are false, then I'll get the error message. You'll get validation. Validation error. Okay. If all the conditions are false, then we'll get the validation error. Now here, if any of the condition is false, in the OR condition, if any of the conditions are false, then I'll get the validation error. Right? Take a notes of it. Yeah, Gayatri will cover that. We have not completed the validation rule.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, for example, now here what is happening whenever I implement a validation rule, the validation rule is applying on the new record as well as the existing record. This is applied, the validation rule gets applied only whenever I'm creating a new record, or else if I'm editing the existing record, both the times the validation rule gets executed. But the scenario here is only for the new records. Only for the new records, I wanted to apply the validation rule. Only for the new records, I wanted to apply the validation rule. That means if I create a validation rule, now this is the validation rule that I have created. Now this validation rule should be created only for, should be fired, this validation rule should be fired only for new record, only for new records, not for the existing records, not for the existing records. Now, how can I do that? It should not file for the new records. It should file for the new records, not for the existing records. Based on the today function, yes, you can add the today function also, that is fine. But what we have is Salesforce is already providing the function to check whether the record is a new record or not. They are providing the function called whether it is a new record or not. Now, what is that function is new. Is new. Now, there is a possibility that the record is created yesterday. The possibility is the record is created actually yesterday, right? But whenever the record is inserted in the Salesforce, right? Whenever the record is inserted in the Salesforce, it's completely new record, right? You can also check the created date, system created date, that is also you can check it. But this Salesforce, instead of checking the date, sometimes date might misguide the developer. Date might misguide the developer because sometimes in few projects they will have a separate field called as a created date. Right? Sometimes I cannot say it is always, but there is a scenario. Sometimes created dates might misguide the developers. So in that case, what we can do is we can use the existing Salesforce has provided the function called as a isNew. Salesforce has provided the function called isNew. Now what I can do, I can check here. There is a function which is available here, isNew. Check if the record is a new and the returns true. Only for new records I wanted to check. Now what is the condition I'm doing it here? The condition I'm doing it here, this is I'm checking whether it is a new record or not. New record or not. If it is a new record, it will return the true. It will return the true. And then I wanted to check this OR condition. So this is also true. That means I need to check both the conditions. I need to check both the conditions. Now simply I cannot write is new, right, comma or. What will happen if I write like this? This is one condition, this is another condition. This is one condition, this is another condition, right? Now I wanted to check both of them. I wanted to check both of them. Now let me execute this. Check this. what it is asking that syntax error. I cannot simply make it like this. I cannot simply make it like this. Now, if you want both should be there, now what you need to do? You need to add one more function here called or. One more function, you need to add it or. That means you need to on top, you need to add one more function or. Within this, you need to add this. Within this, you need to add. So that means I want to check the is new as well as I wanted to check this condition. I wanted to check this condition, or else if you want and condition to be added here, you can add the and condition. Now we will see this. Now for now, what I am adding here or condition. Now I wanted to check only for the new records. Only for the new records, this should be firing it. Click on a save. I have added the function called is new. I have added the function called is new. Go here. Now let me create the new one. Now let's take this. Clone the record. I cannot clone the record. Click on new button. Now here, let's say that Yamaha account and click on save. Email is mandatory. Samskaram IT@gmail.com. Click on save. Please enter the account number, rating and type. It is asking me to enter all these details. Now I have entered the type. Still it is asking me to enter the rating. I am going to enter the rating. Still it is asking me to enter the account number. Now let's say YM some number. Click on save. Still it is asking me that please enter the details. What is happening if it is a new record, right? So here that is a true condition. Both should be true here. This is a new record. This is new record. Now for new record, what I am saying here is new. This is a true. Or condition, what it will check? It will check all the conditions has to be false. Then only I will not get the error. Then only I will not get the error. If all the conditions are true, then now here this condition is true and this condition this is perfectly fine false, right? Now ultimately what it is saying that it is saying me that you cannot do it for the new records. You cannot do it for the new records here. Now if I change the validation rule here, if I change the validation, now I'll place it here and condition. And condition I'll place it. Now click on save. Now let's click on save. It's allowing me. What happened if I have a or condition? Both should be either you use a or condition here or no is new not condition. Is new not condition. Now directly if you give a is new, what will happen here? I'm using the same existing one, or here we have a is new or this. Now I'll click on save. Now if I create a new record, it will not allow me to save the record. For example, if I go and create if I edit the existing one, if I create the existing one, is new is a false, is new is false, and click on the save button. Now here type, right, this is the perfect, and then rating is the fine. Now it is going to allow me to save the record because this is not the new record. This is not the new record. Now it has to be, in case if you want to fire only for the new record and you wanted to use the or function and you wanted to use the or function here, then in that case use here not. Use here not. Click on save. Now let's go here, account. Click on the new account. Let's say Audi. Click on save and need to enter the email. Click on save. Now what it is asking me, it is asking me to enter the details prospect. Let enter on the values here, code and the account number AU, some number here. Click on save. Now we cannot save the record because the account orchestration process is failed. We have implemented the orchestration, right? So there is some error which is happened on the orchestration. There is some error which has happened on the orchestration. Now what I'll do is I'll go back to the home. Let's go to the flow. Now definitely I would have received an email for this. Definitely I would have received an email. Let me go and check. Two errors I have received. Yesterday I was telling you, right? Two errors you will receive. One error is whatever the background step is there. Field custom validation. Whatever you have entered the account number rating, this is the validation rule. Now what is the error it is happened? So it says that account ID, now it is active. Custom validation exception. Custom validation exception, it is happening. We are updating the account active. Okay, this is on the background step. The another flow which I have received on the account orchestration, in an error occurred, where it is occurred error on the background step. On the background step, we are calling this background step. Now here it says that oh, whatever this field is there, there is some validation. Validation is having the problem. Now you cannot put the not condition here. Now simply what I'll do is I'll update this. Now this kind of a experiment we have to do it in the real time. It's not so easy, right? These kind of a experiments we have to do it. Click on the save. Now go to here, click on the save. Because in the real time, you will be having a flow. On the object level, the developer, because in the project level, there are so many members are working on it. So many members are working. If the 4 developers are working on the project, one developer is implemented on the object level flow, another one is implemented a workflow, another one is implemented a workflow, another one is implemented a validation flow, right? Another member is implemented a process builder. Now it is possible that on single object, multiple developers implement multiple automation tools. Now in that case, because of your or because of somebody's else, there is some error is happening. Now you cannot tell that because of the other developer has implemented the provider, it is causing an issue. No, you cannot do that. Now you need to research and find what is happening. Now, whenever there is any error happens, definitely you will receive an email. Kind of this email, it says that validation exception. The error is occurred. Please enter the rating type. Please enter the rating type. Whatever this is the validation error message, right? So it does not accept it. It does not accept there is an error message we are going to receive it. So this is how in the real time we can be doing it. Now tomorrow we will see more scenarios. Now this is very basic level. Now we will see more scenarios tomorrow, how to handle how to implement a validation rules but for little bit complicated. When I say little bit complicated, now I have a multiple groups, right? I have a multiple groups. How can I restrict only one profile to get this validation error? Other profile should not get the error validation. Now, how can I say that this validation rule should be excluded for the admin? Admin should not get the validation rule, but other profile should be getting the validation rule, right? And similarly, how can I check the other data types? We have a different data types in the Salesforce. Now, how do I verify it? Like I have a website. I have a website. Now, how do I make sure that website is entered properly or not? Now, how do I make sure that validation email ID, validation valid email is entered or not? Right? And how do I make sure that whether the postcode is entered properly with the right format or not? Or whether the zip code is entered with the right format or not? How can I make sure? So these all things we will see tomorrow. Right, so today let's take the homework. Now the homework is create a validation rule on the opportunity object to make sure the tracking number. We have a one field called tracking number. The tracking number value should be present for new records. That means whenever the opportunity is created, only for new records, whenever the opportunity is created, we should check in the tracking number should be having the value. So this has to be cross-verified only for the new record. Now, second one is create a validation rule to prevent the user to change the HR record name. What is this? Create a validation rule to prevent the user to change the HR record name. Now you have a hiring manager record, right? Now go to the hiring manager here. Now in the hiring manager, once the record is created, now we should not allow user to changing this name. Whenever user is changing the name, we should prompt user saying that you cannot edit the hiring manager name once the record is created. Now, how do you do that? How will you do that? How you will do that? How can you prevent the user not to modify the name? Which function do you use it? Prior value, yes. What else? What else we have it? How can you check the update? Do we have a is changed? Is change function is not there. Do we have a is changed? No, is changed is there, yeah. So is changed or a prior value. So both of them you can use it. Either of one you can use it. So this is only for the existing record. This is only for the existing record, not for the new record. Not for the new record. Create a validation rule to prevent the user to change the hiring manager record name on the existing record, not on the new record. Not on the new record. Now try that, and the next one is create a validation rule. Right? This is on the hiring manager. Create a validation rule. Let's say example on the account to check, to validate phone, email, and rating value. So that means this is for the new and existing record. This is for the both new and existing record. You need to check there is a value in this, or as well as create a validation rule on account object to make sure the data is available in billing address for new and only for new records. Only for new records. Only for new records. Now what you are going to check here, billing address means you will have a different fields here. Billing state, you have to check the billing state. And you have to check the billing city, billing country, billing state, billing state. Now all these things you need to check it. Create a validation rule on opportunity object to make sure closing date captured, closing date captured while updating the opportunity status to closed. So what you need to do here, if you do not have a field here, you need to create a new field. You need to create a field which is called as a closing date. Closing date, and the data type is date. Data type is date. Whenever you are updating the opportunity stage, whenever you are updating the opportunity stage to the closed or a closed bone, you have to make sure that the closing date is there. And show the error message here. Error message should be populate the closing date. Create a validation rule. On the account object to validate the account number. Whatever the account number we have, that account number is numeric. It should be numeric and it should not be a null. That means account number should not be a null and you should enter only the numeric data, numeric value there. Perfect. So these are the assignments. Now let's do it more tomorrow. We will share this PPT with you guys.